Welcome back everyone, and here we are again with an absolute behemoth on the workbench for me to look at. This is an S&T M240b and it's absolutely colossal. It's the sort of thing that should be mounted to a vehicle, but some crazy person thinks it's a good idea to own one of these and run around at Airsoft, rather than me, I think, because you wouldn't catch me running around with this. This is absolutely far too big. However, why is it here and what is my mission brief today on this? So, this has come to me because it's poorly, quite obviously, because this is where things get fixed. Now, the problem with this one, apparently it is shooting, but some of the BBs are dropping. So it's not feeding right. So we're going to have a little look today. We'll start by giving it a quick test fire in a minute just to see what it's doing or not doing, and just to see if we can make some sense of what the actual problem is, and then we can rip it apart, maybe put some upgrades in to make it perform really well, because the guy that owns this says he would like it to be super reliable, and be able to do a sustained rate of fire, not an excessive rate of fire, not a fast one, but a sustained one, but be reliable, so that he can use the huge capacity of his box mag here just to rain BBs down on the enemy. So what fun, hey, what fun. So let's get a battery connected first of all, and we'll get it tested just to see what the issue is so we know what we're doing. Okay, so while we're testing it, we're going to use a 7.4 volt battery because there's no need for us to be doing anything excessive, and this is going to be built to run off the equivalent of a 7.4 anyway, because we don't want silly rate of fire, we want reliability. But let's not do any more damage than has probably already been done by attaching something bigger than what we need. So, first question is, what does it sound like? Okay, right, yeah, that doesn't sound good at all, does it? Now, I don't know how well this is going to pick up on the camera. We're going for the audio more than anything initially. Listen for this. I'm gonna puke! That sounds horrendous. So I think it would be safe to say our feeding issue is stemming from said gearbox. Something is definitely broken. Because look, the BBs, let's just do more damage to it. We're going to fix it, it just doesn't matter. Excuse my mess in the corner, but watch the BBs coming out. Yeah, well knackered, absolutely well knackered. So let me get this open and we're going to see what damage has been done inside that gearbox. So as you can both see and hear, this is not very well at all, this toy at the moment. It is sounding horrendous and the BBs are just dribbling at best out front of it. So it's certainly not battle ready at the moment. But just while we take this apart, I'll give you a bit more of a backstory that I've had from its owner, who's obviously brought it to me for repairs. He'd had it and was enjoying it, and in its standard form, the standard piston with a bit of use had failed. It's just because it's plastic and it had stripped. Now he had taken it somewhere to get it repaired, and while it was there, the guys that was trying to repair it decided he would put in some additional upgrade parts, which the owner of this didn't really ask for apparently, yet the guy took it upon himself to put a load of upgrade parts into the rifle to supposedly make it perform better, and yet we now find ourselves in this situation where it's on my desk, where it's all very unwell again, but nevertheless I'm sure we can get it sorted. So you can see here we're stripping it down, getting the gearbox out, and then we'll get it open and let's have a little look to see what we find inside. Okay, so some of the issues that are going on inside this gearbox now that I've had a chance to strip it apart. Firstly, someone had put 13:1 gears in, trying to make it go stupid quick when it just really doesn't need that. But anyway, these gears have died anyway. That's the little tappet cam that pulls the tappet blade back. That's broken, that's fallen off. So I'm surprised that was even still in there. So that's knackered. So we're going to write that gear set off. We'll get rid of them. Someone had cut the spring down, which is almost too short to push the piston all the way to the front of the cylinder head. So that's no good. A little bit wear on the pistons, we'll probably change that and set that up as we like anyway. They've cut the tappet plate tail down excessively, so I might have to muck around with that with the gears and a decent delayer chip on them to hopefully that will still feed. But the biggest issue, which might cause me the biggest bit of grief, is some muppet has decided, look around here, for some reason they've decided to grind around the openings that hold the bearings and the bushings. Now my worry is they haven't done that very flat, and because I want to replace the bearings because these are already starting to break, look, I want to put solid bushings in for durability, but the worry now is they, I bet, are not going to sit totally flat. If that's the case, I might very well have the grueling issue of trying to find a replacement gearbox for this, which I bet is going to be as rare as hen's teeth, I reckon. So I think I might have a go playing around with it, shimming it first, just to see how much of a mess they've made of this. So disclaimer, well, that wasn't me. And we'll see what it does. So not ideal, I'm sure you'll agree, with the damage to where the bushings sit with inside the gearbox. You can see here with me trying one of the bushings in there, it's just sitting wonky. You can see how crooked that's sitting here, and that's going to be no good for holding the gears. However, I don't really have much choice because I'm not sure how easy one of these gearboxes is going to be to get. So I think my first option will be to have a go at seeing if I can repair this in some way, and then have a go at shimming the gears in to try and get them to run smoothly, because we're going to need this to be working in this shell if we can. So with a few moments of me mucking around trying to level out these holes to undo the mess that someone else has made, you can see here I've managed to get all the bushings sat in nice and flat. They're nice and secure, and I've even managed to get the gears shimmed nicely in there as well. So everything's running really smoothly. So I think we've got away with it on this one. I've managed to repair the gearbox shell on this occasion, so we haven't got to panic about finding another one. So I'm pretty confident this is going to run smoothly when we've rebuilt it. With the gears now set up and running smoothly, it's time to start building the rest of the gearbox. So the next step is going to be to ensure that the chosen piston runs smoothly within the gearbox shell and also engages nicely with the sector gear, looking closely on how it picks it up so we can ensure smooth running with sustained rate of fire. Now that we know everything in the gearbox is running smoothly, it is time to rebuild it. But as we do that, we're going to make sure we've got a nice little bit of grease on all the moving components, just to ensure that everything runs as smoothly as possible. And then just like that, the gearbox was all reassembled and ready to go. Now, we're going to connect a battery to it, but just before I do, you might notice it's got a different motor on it to what we saw earlier. I know I said originally we were going to try and keep this, but it turned out that when I was in here and I was shimming the gears, the backing plate on the back of this is a tiny little bit chunkier than the motor we've got in there, and it just meant there wasn't enough space for that to come back far enough to relieve, obviously, the pressure on the bevel gear. It was basically sitting too far forward. So we swapped it out and we've gone for a Solink brushless motor, which I think will be far better anyway for sustained rate of fire, and of course improving the battery life. So that is definitely worthwhile doing. But in the meantime, let's connect a 7.4 volt battery and see what the gearbox sounds like now that we've rebuilt everything. So, moment of truth, ready? So that seems to be going all right, doesn't it? And the last bit I've done is just sort the hop, because that is now a Quantum. So we've upgraded what was in there. What was in there was a maple leaf, but interestingly, whoever put it in, there's like a V-shaped cutout. Can you see that in the lips? Now that is almost too perfect. So if the hot rubber was upright, so we can see our little line on the bottom, our little patch up the top, that is directly 90 degrees to where the hot patch is. So what I think is going on there is, on this, that has been in, and I think someone has deliberately cut out the corner of that because they've been having feeding issues. I think is what they've done. But that would have done absolutely no assistance for air seal whatsoever. So we've had to swap that out. And then just like that, it was rebuilt into a complete toy again. Although this time it is sounding a lot better than what it did at the beginning of the video. Now I've put a 7.4 volt battery, same battery as earlier, in the back. We've got some 0.28 gram BBs in here. We'll have a quick listen and then we'll get it on the chrono and then we'll see what it does if we do some sustained fire. Because that is the whole point of this, we want reliability. So it sounds like... perfect, and it is feeding perfectly. So let's get it on the chrono quickly. Right, let's see if we can do this. So we're going to put chrono on screen for you so you can see, and we've got 0.28 gram BBs, and if we get that in front there, we have got, ready? Okay, absolutely spot on. So that has just done. So it has had a power of just over a joule there. So the last shot to go through was 279 feet per second. And on that battery, that is doing 11 rounds a second. I know what you're thinking, it's not excessive, it's not super fast, but that wasn't the mission brief on this one. What I was intended to do with this was to fix the original issues caused on this one and make it so reliable that the owner can literally So there we have it. That is going to bring us to the end of the repair on this one. So I think certainly mission successful. So although it is not the quickest rate of fire you might have ever seen with a 7.4 volt battery, it does mean that where that is doing 11 rounds a second, which is 660 rounds a minute, with a 4,000 BB box mag capacity, that means that is going to be suppressing heads for just about 6 minutes, I think. And I'm pretty confident it will do that reliably. So there we go. That is the repair on the S&T M240b, and it will happily do this all day. Okay, I can already hear the trolls in the comments on that one. 11 rounds a second? What a shit tech. I wouldn't send my gun to him if it's the last option on this planet. Well, all right then. How about this? Same toy, just with an 11.1 battery this time. Let's see.